Okay, so here we are with another DC Multiverse unboxing from Mcfarlane Toys, and this is Azrael Batman armor. Not Azrael in Batman armor. Isn't that what I put? I don't know, whatever. Azrael Batman armor. So from Batman Knightsend, nice piece of Barry Kitson artwork on the back, which any of us who read this story back in the 90s, we remember this, don't we? Yeah, that was from the final chapter. Uh, Knight's End was the last part of the Nightfall saga. Ran through all the Batman books, although it didn't go into Legends of the Dark Knight until we got into the Night Quest section of it. And then we had like a little bit of a Bruce Wayne miniseries in there. And then finally, for the Knight's End section of the saga, that's when we had a couple of chapters in that because they were trying to bang that one out real quick. Uh, they needed to get Bruce Wayne back into the bat suit in time for their big intercompany crossover, the 0 Hour event. And part of the 0 Hour event was they were going to have zero issues that were supposed to act as jumping on points for various DC titles, and Batman was no exception. So obviously they wanted to have Bruce Wayne back in the suit by then. So they kind of just banged that out real quick. I don't want to say that it was a rush job because I still think it was a good story, and it wound up being an enjoyable climax to the whole thing. But it was definitely a lot shorter than the previous two segments of that particular series. Anyway, let's go ahead and open them up. We don't need to spend too much time talking about the packaging because we're well familiar with the McFarlane packaging by now, aren't we? Yes, we are. So we'll go ahead and get the figure out. And there's a lot of figure in here because he's got a lot of accessories with these wings. I'm going to be interested to see how these wings fit together. Before we do that, let's go ahead and get this trading card off the package. And once again, it's doing that thing where it wants to peel off all the cardboard. There, I got it from this side. And there we got that Barry Kitson artwork again. And that's what the back looks like. And it reads, Batman, or Azrael, Batman armor, Batman Knightsend, data file, real name Jean-Paul Valley. Upon his father's death, college student Jean-Paul Valley learns that he has been genetically altered and trained since birth by a secret society known as the Order of Saint Dumbass. Oh, I'm sure that said Dumas. I'm sorry. He is kind of a dumbass. Then remember that old A&W root beer commercial where the guy he's interviewing for a job and he keeps calling the guy dumbass through the whole thing, and then at the end the guy's like doing the interviews like the name is pronounced Dumas. Anyway, then they then activate his psychological conditioning, forcing him to become their most elite enforcer, Azrael. While on a mission in Gotham City, Azrael crosses paths with Batman and soon turns on the Order to join the Dark Knight. Later, when Bruce Wayne is paralyzed by Bane, Bruce asks Jean-Paul to become the Batman for some time. Jean-Paul then launches into a campaign of brutal justice against the criminals of Gotham City and creates his own bat suit of armor. So yeah, it was Jean-Paul's mental conditioning that kept pushing him to become Azrael even after he had taken on the Batman mantle. And kind of the joke of that design is that when he started doing this armor is that it actually was like an Azrael suit kind of disguised as a Batman suit. And most of them were blue and gray with some gold, like you imagine a Batman costume should be. But when it got to the end in the final battle, he was caught in this huge explosion. It was like it burned all the blue paint off of it, and we saw it was red underneath. So it was always an Azrael suit the whole time, really. But anyway, let's go ahead and get him out of the package. So thankfully, because of the way that this armor is designed, that means that it looks like there's a lot of easy points for me to get these rubber bands so I can cut them loose. So it won't be quite as much of a pain as usual, except for they put these truly superfluous rubber bands underneath his utility belt. I don't know why they felt like they had to have 2 rubber bands around the lower torso and 2 rubber bands around the bottom of the utility belt. Like, I usually say these rubber bands are pretty superfluous, and they are, but those were like superfluous even by the standard of these rubber tabs. So there we go. Try to grab some of these from the back so I don't have these things falling all over my floor. I'm always finding rubber tabs from when I open action figures because there's just so many of them. It's so annoying. This is how I knew toy companies were BSing when they were talking about how their plastic-free packaging was to protect the environment. Oh yeah? Who's going to protect the environment from these? They still were using them. At least Mcfarlane never had any pretense at that. Mcfarlane always has had the plastic packaging. So here is Azrael out of the box. And then we've got all these wings. I don't usually do it on the show, but I do often unbox wings. Of course, I'm eating them, and they're covered in hot sauce. So that's nobody wants to see me eat hot wings on the show. Although some of you watching probably have seen me eat hot wings, just not on video, just in real life. Shout out to any of my actual real life friends who are watching this. Shout out to any of my internet friends who are watching this. Maybe one day you will see me eat hot wings in person. Who knows? All right, so we have 6 of these wings. They seem to be identical to each other, which to me seems cost effective. I don't know why you'd want to sculpt like 6 different wings because they can all just be the same. And you can see they all have a little peg at the end. Now, in the comic book, these are drawn in a much more simplified manner, which makes sense because you're going to want to draw these wings over and over and over again. So it's just kind of this jagged shape. However, Mcfarlane, as they often do, has added a lot of extra detail. So you can see they've sculpted in what looks like a joint. It's not actually a joint. It doesn't actually move. But there's actually a couple of joints there. But so it can make it believable in such a way you can shift around. There's detail sculpted into the wing where you can almost imagine how it might condense in on itself, like he has to sit in the Batmobile or something like that. Because if you just had these kind of gigantic fins sticking off of your back in real life, you're not going to be able to like fit in a car, or doorways might be a problem, anything like that. Azrael is not a practical guy as far as his costume is as costume goes. He's not one of the sharper thinkers, actually. So you can see there's a peg and a tab, and you can see there's a hole and a slot. And you can fit the peg into the hole and the tab into the slot and repeat the process 6 times, and there he is in all of his insane glory as Bats, Azrael, as Batman, his own twisted vision of Batman by way of Azrael. Like I said, John Paul was not like a clever guy. He wasn't so much of a detective like Bruce was. He just used brute force. He was just some crazy guy who thought he was Batman and just wanted to go out and basically just beat people up. Like a Robert Pattinson Batman before there was Robert Pattinson Batman. So he didn't care about about running a charity or something like that. No, he just goes out there and beats people up. So really cool, really impressive looking figure. He just looks absolutely batshit insane. But like he oughta. It's Jean Paul Valley. It's Batman. Do I have it around here anywhere? My Nightfall Batman, or did I leave him over there somewhere? Hard to tell. There's a lot of clutter in this room right now because I've just got so much stuff I need to get rid of as far as packaging goes. Here it is. So my back's been acting up a lot lately, and that's why I haven't really been keeping this place as tidy as I probably should. So once I'm feeling better, I'm gonna get on getting rid of all these stacks of Amazon packaging that I have. So there is the Nightfall Batman versus the Knightsend Azrael, and so this is what Batman would have looked like at the end of that story, and we can see them next to each other, and pretty cool. I am Batman. I am Batman. Because if I am not, I am nothing. There's a really cool BBC audio drama based on Nightfall by Dirk Maggs, who does a lot of audio dramas over there. And I would highly recommend anybody who's interested in the story give that a listen. You can find it on YouTube a lot of the time. Somebody will upload it. But let's go ahead and look at his articulation. So Asbats can look down about that far. It's pretty impressive considering all this armor clogging him up. He can look up about that far. He can turn his head from side to side quizzically, which he probably would do a lot. But like I said, not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of this stuff is reused from the previous Asbats figure, which was more based on the first iteration. Unfortunately, I was never able to get that, but looking at pictures of it online, it looks like at least the abs are the same. I'm guessing most of this suit is the same except for the breastplate and the wings and the new head. Probably a lot of this was recycled. But also, I think that one had open hands and this one has clenched fist hands, but they still have those razor blade gloves that he was infamous for. So Azrael's arms should, in theory, rotate all the way around at the shoulder, but he's got all this crap on him that gets in the way. First of all, we got this big scalloped piece here, and you would have to flatten out his arm all the way like that to get it to rotate around it. But then what's the point? The arm should rotate all the way around at the bicep, but it's also got this this ammo feed on there. You can see that Asbats had this big, basically a big ammo clip on his back, almost like you think of a Tommy gun's ammo clip. And this was all loaded with little bat-shaped shurikens that he fired out through his glove. So that's what this thing is. This flat tube. It's a feed for his bat shurikens. So he could fire those like a machine gun of shurikens. You know, Batman will throw shurikens sometimes, but it's like, you know, a couple of shurikens he's got in his hand. This guy's like all like tearing the place up with shurikens. He's got a flamethrower built into his gauntlet. He's got a grapple gun built into his gauntlet. Hey, Robert Pattinson has that too, doesn't he? Tell you, Robert Pattinson's really playing Asbats. That's what's going on there. So anyway, going back to the articulation. In addition to all this articulation that we can't really use because his costume's so cluttered, he does have double jointed elbow, which works surprisingly well. The wrist is articulated and can rotate all the way around, but again, it bumps into the flamethrower on the gauntlet, so it can't quite make it all the way around. How much posability are you going to want to put Asbats into anyway? How much movement can this guy really get out of this suit of armor? I mean, like, the articulation's great, but it's just not practical because the armor itself isn't practical and it keeps clogging it up in various ways. Like, I'd recently seen a Facebook post where somebody was talking about how, like, Azrael's gloves were ridiculous and he's got all these pouches on his uniform, but he can't actually take anything out of his pouches because he's got these razor gloves that, how is he supposed to grab anything out of his package, his pouches? And my response was, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to look ridiculous. Like, I'm pretty sure that's a feature, not a bug. So so yeah, it's supposed to be the sort of thing where you're looking at him. Is this guy nuts to wear this? Yes, he absolutely is nuts to wear this. He's a crazy person. There's a lot of good texture. I don't know if you can make that out over the camera, but there's a lot of good texture to the pants. Kind of like how Green Lantern, uh, both John Stewart and Kyle Rayner had that sort of texture to them. Man, they did a great job on the Azrael gauntlets. And the gauntlets were the first thing that Azrael designed and wore as part of his Batman costume. Or initially, he just wore Bruce Wayne's Batman costume, and then he designed these gauntlets. So he was wearing the gauntlets over the armor or over the bat suit, and then finally built the armor to fight Bane. And the armor got more and more extreme as he went along, and this was the final, most extreme version of the armor. And I mean extreme in the classic sense. Extreme was a word that was often overused in the 90s. Well, trust me, it applied to this guy. He was extreme. Like like capital extreme kind of extreme. So this is a guy who had, surge flowing through his veins, like that kind of extreme 90s extreme. So he does have the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation. You can rotate his torso around whichever way you want, at least as long as these wings aren't bumping into his shins or whatever. He can kick his leg up about that far. He is just wearing tights from this point on, so I expect the articulation should be pretty good, except for where it's going to bump into the wings. He can do the splits, no problem. Hey, look at that. That's cool. I haven't done that joke in a while, have I? So, yeah, kick his leg back about that far, forward about that far. He does have double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get on the knee. Pretty good range of motion there. He's got no boot cut, but he's got no boots. He does have the cool Mcfarlane ball jointed ankle articulation, so you can rotate the ankle all the way around at where the ankle meets the shin, and also all the way around where the foot meets the ankle, like so. So you can get all kinds of cool poses out of that. And ankle points down about that far, ankle points up about that far. So really good range of motion there. And we got toe articulation just to show off. So this storyline was kind of controversial back in the day. And I remember I didn't like it at first either. I mean, I enjoyed the first part of it with Batman fighting all the villains that had escaped from Arkham Asylum, but I did not like Batman being replaced with a psychopath in Iron Man armor. That tends to be something that I don't like to see as Batman is a psychopath in Iron Man armor. Again, see Robert Pattinson. But eventually I figured out what they were doing. And what they were doing was they were making a massive commentary on kind of the state of superhero comics at the time and what Batman should be, which is in addition to being a gritty crime fighter type of character, which I think we all agree that Batman is a gritty crime fighter type of character. He should be a man who's driven by compassion and not just a desire to mete out punishment to the guilty, which of course, Batman is a guy who wants to mete out punishment to the guilty, but that's not what he's all about. He is also about protecting the innocent and making sure that innocent people don't get hurt. So I've recently watched a video. God, what was the guy's video? I watched so many videos about Batman the Animated Series because I love Batman the Animated Series. But he was talking about Robin's Reckoning and the scene where Batman has to choose between catching Tony Zuko, who just killed Dick Grayson's parents, and saving the life of Dick Grayson, who had fallen into the river. This is before Dick became Robin. He was still like 12 years old. And of course, Batman. As the guy in the video puts it, I wish I could remember the name of the guy. I'm gonna look it up on my computer real quick because I want to give credit where credit is due. So Batman Now my computer's all lagged up. I typed in the word Batman and it stopped at the T. There we go. Okay. Animated series. Hopefully, when I do the search, the algorithm will give me one of his videos immediately because I watch a lot of his videos. I watch this guy's videos religiously, which is another reason I feel bad that I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But like I said, I watch so many people's BTAS videos. Yeah, it's a Serum Lake. That's that guy's name. So I was watching his video on Robin. Do a search for Serum Lake, Batman, Robin, and it should be like one of the first things that pops up. It's got a thumbnail with Robin posed like this, and it says redundant. But the way he phrased it was really good. It's like for Batman choosing between getting Zuko and saving Dick Grayson is not even a choice because Batman will always choose saving a life over apprehending a criminal. So despite people who will tell you that vengeance is the main motivation of Batman, no, it's not. It's not vengeance. It's justice. It's protecting an innocent person is probably more important to Batman even than punishing the. If he could only pick one, he would save the innocent person every time. So Azrael was not that. Azrael was the guy who, like, if Alfred was still around and trying to get somebody to run the charity, he'd be like, I don't have time for that. I have to go beat up people who are robbing liquor stores, like, because that's way more important than running your charity. So he was Pattinson was the guy from that meme where it's like, oh, the one I'm talking about, oh, Batman could do so much good if he would actually just give money to charity instead of wasting it all on being Batman. Well, he does get money to charity, actually. There's a thing called the Wayne Foundation. Matt Reeves, I guess, forgot about that. But anyway, so yeah, Azrael was not really equipped to be Batman because of that. And what wound up happening was when he was trying to apprehend a villain named Abattoir. Abattoir left one of his victims in a death trap with stones piling up on him one by one, and Azrael just let him die. Didn't actually kill him per se, but let him fall into a vat of molten metal. And as I often say, Batman should probably stop letting people fall into vats. It's never worked in his favor. Never worked for Bruce, and it certainly didn't work for Jean-Paul in this case. So Abattoir died before he could tell Azrael where his victim was hidden, dying in an incredibly slow and brutal manner. So Azrael was responsible for the death of this innocent person too. So when Bruce Wayne originally came back, he wasn't intending on becoming Batman again. He was gonna, kind of continue as a private citizen. And Jean-Paul can handle the Batman thing from now on. I'm just gonna, spend my life trying to help people and doing good deeds and things like that. And Tim's like, well, let me get you up to speed on what's happened, and then maybe you can make up your mind about that. So Bruce was forced to don the Batsuit once more and take out his former protege who had now gone off the deep end and was ruining everything that the name Batman stood for. So once I figured out, oh, he's the villain of the piece. They're not trying to replace my boy Bruce. They're trying to, show us why Bruce is so great as Batman. Everything that Azrael did wrong as Batman is something that Bruce Wayne would have never done. And us reading the comics, we think to ourselves, Bruce Wayne would never do that. So in actuality, by telling a story about how this guy is not fit to be Batman whatsoever, they're telling us a story about why Bruce Wayne is fit to be Batman, and really the only guy who can be Batman. Yeah, I know people love, Terry McGinnis, and it's fun from time to time to see somebody pick up the mantle of Batman, Dick Grayson or Luke Fox or somebody like that. See somebody else fill in the role and see how they do with it. But at the end of the day, it's always going to be Bruce Wayne back in that suit because Bruce Wayne is Batman and Batman is Bruce Wayne. Some people like say the thing about like Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is the real guy, and I think it's a a lot more complicated than that. I think there's a real guy, and sometimes that's Bruce Wayne, and sometimes that's Batman. But there's aspects of both lurking underneath that cowl. So yeah, and even then, you know, Bruce could have and probably should have made sure Azabats was locked away in Arkham Asylum for the rest of his life, but instead, you know, feeling like he was a little bit responsible for this whole thing in the first place, decided to redeem Azrael in a less orthodox way, and thus made Azrael kind of like one of his agents that he would send around the world on globe-trotting missions. And occasionally he would don this bat suit again, but for the most part, he went back to the original design of the costume that Joe Quesada came up with. I think that's why we didn't see a whole lot of Azrael merchandise for a while, is like when Quesada was in charge of Marvel Comics. You notice once he wasn't in charge of Marvel Comics anymore, we started to see more Azbats merchandise. How about that? Crazy coincidence. So, anyway, happy to have this this figure in my collection. He is a really impressive rendition of, I wouldn't call him a Batman villain. He's not necessarily a villain per se, but certainly an adversary of Batman, and also a member of the Bat family. So funny how that tends to happen sometimes. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it that I have to say about Azbats. I really like this figure. I hope you enjoyed listening to me chat about it for a little while. I will be back on Monday, and I will have this bad boy to open, which is the original Batman, the very first Batman from 1939, from Detective Comics number 27. Actually, that's how they labeled him. Batman Detective Comics number 27. First appearance Batman. So, you know, you have the first and the last in a way. I know there's been other Batmans since then, but you see what I'm talking about. So I've been loving what McFarlane's been doing with Batman lately. We've gotten a lot of good villains. We've gotten like a lot of good versions of the character himself. I never mind buying multiple versions of Batman as long as they give me something interesting each time. Like I don't really, I'm not really the kind of guy who gets into like, you know, neon orange kind of Kenner Batmans necessarily. But anytime Kenner put out a Batman variant that I thought was cool, I'd go ahead and buy it. Like I really like the that Sea Claw Batman they put out near the end of the line. Not the first one they did that was yellow, but the later one that was had sort of a gunmetal gray suit, and the scuba tank was kind of a metallic teal color. I still have that one actually. But yeah, Azrael they did a great job with. Now I do know that they did a blue version of this that's a chase figure, and if I can run across him anywhere, I'll pick him up. But he's going to be kind of hard to find, as those platinum edition figures often are. But honestly, I kind of feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. They could have easily done that as a separate release, and I think it would have sold just as well as this one. Maybe they'll put a blue one in a 2-pack at some point. That might be nice. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Azrael, both this figure and the character in general. We will talk to you next time. Bye.